Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What's up, Andrew?
Buddy, first full field event of the year. I love this. I love this so much. You like the cut, right? You're a cut proponent.
Oh, huge cut guy.
Yeah, me too.
Daniel already saying at 3:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that Matt Kuchar is the play of the week. Daniel, I can't take Matt Kuchar this earlier in the day or the
week. Here's what I'll say to Daniel. I understand where your head's at because this is a course where course history is super, super important.
He's won like 12 times here. He's right.
Right. There's been few guys that have been as good at YLI as Matt Kuchar. So in the mix for me. I'm not going to commit to Kuch at Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, but definitely in the mix for me. I will take down your Venmo if he wins.
I just said the show is live to our Discord, which is extremely active. Extremely active. Saul is in there talking about Ryu Ishikawa. So there's the value you get. Shout out to Mike Casano. There you go. So you have I'll do my little subline title here. Ask me about key cutting. Here's why I say that is because on the Sunday Morning Wood football show, which we have a ton of people live, they asked if I worked at a Home Depot because of the ladders. So the comment section is extremely funny sometimes. And they said, do you have a coupon code for key cutting?
What are we presented for, by the way? I think one of my favorite staples of Golflandia, if that's ever coming back, by the way, are the random sponsorships. I know we've dealt with Supercuts in the past. Did you get your haircut, by the way?
Yeah. So I'm so glad you said that because I was wearing a backwards hat last week. Because I hadn't got a haircut for 3 weeks because my girl Christine at Supercuts moved. And I think your girlfriend or fiance or spouse said, I look like, what do you say, a man toddler that never grew up or something?
Frat boy who didn't grow up,
right?
Which is the context for my banner today.
Thank you. That's such a good segue. So I did go to Supercuts Monday. That is not a bit or a lie. I took a photo. Christine was there, got the haircut done. And so that is one of our sponsors. The other sponsor, because people say I whiten my teeth and I do my skin peels. It's brought to you by Colgate 15-year pro stain remover. So if you had stains in 2008, they won't go away. But don't let 2009 stains go. Colgate. Just brush your teeth, folks. Get some fluoride. It's brought to you by
RPS Tuesday show brought to you by Supercuts, brought to you by Colgate toothpaste.
And Home Depot. Use code Andy15 for free key cutting all January.
Is that your home office or your office?
This is the office.
Okay, so you don't record in your home. You go to work every day.
No.
Okay.
Thoughts on Tiger leaving Nike? I saw a Rappaport.
I saw him at my golf club the other day. Yeah, he's moved back in LA. What was he saying about it?
He said, I won Twitter this week, and I DM'd him. I said, are you being a little snarky with me? No, he said he did good, did well. No, I said about Tiger in that I don't think necessarily, and I could be wrong, that Nike broke up with him and that Tiger maybe broke up with Nike. I mean, You see Golden Bear, you see Arnold Palmer's brand, you see Greg Norman's Shark. All the mega whales had their own iconic logo, and it seems ridiculous to me that a guy named Tiger Woods, greatest golfer to ever live, greatest modern era moment golfer to ever live, named Tiger, did not have a brand and a logo with a tiger on it that he owned. I mean, it's kind of $1 billion tomorrow. I mean,
right. I could see him. Well, I don't really know because he made the switch to FootJoys, so he stopped. The writing was on the wall a little bit when he started. People already started freaking out about the fact that he was wearing FootJoys instead of Nike. By the way, thank you, Kevin. Code Andy15 for 15% off at Home Depot. I'm really glad the tree cutter's working out for you.
Yeah, it's buy one get one free tree cutter.
Right. Just in time for January and February.
When we first started doing this, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but when we first started doing this, my first couple of morning wood shows, when we had a lot of live subscribers, and I was just thrown into the Wolf's Den, people didn't really get me. Maybe they still don't. And I was saying things like, get the secret menu at Bonefish Grill with code Big T.
I don't get the Bonefish thing at all.
Where you can get wings. And people actually went to the restaurant and tried to do that. So anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
So we'll add Bonefish back to the
Bonefish secret menu, code Andy. Ask for the fish wings. They're good.
Yeah, I don't have I will say this about Tiger. He mentioned in the statement when he was leaving Nike, I don't know if you saw the official statement, that he will see all of us in Los Angeles. So it seems like we will get an answer on Tiger's new gear home, Tiger's new clothing home at Riviera, which is awesome because I will be there at Riviera in just a couple of weeks' time. In fact, actually, the first time I was ever credentialed at a golf tournament for Golf Digest was at Riviera last year. And I walk into the press conference room with Dan Rappaport and my friend Chris Powers at Golf Digest after being out on the golf course.
Your friend, the guy, Chris Powers?
Unfortunately, for better or worse. And the guy giving the press conference is Tiger. And I look over at Chris and I say, so I've never done this before. Like, if I wanted to, I could just raise my hand and ask Tiger a question right now. And he said, yeah, go for it. And I said, fuck no, dude, I'm terrified. I'm going to ask Tiger a question right now, but it's wild. The first time you ever do that, you can just walk right in and have full access to these guys. So that's my resolution for this year. When I go back to Riviera, I'm going to have the balls to, if Tiger's there, which it seems like he will be, I'm going to ask Tiger, not to put you super on the spot, because I couldn't think of one right now off the top of my head, but if you could ask Tiger one thing, what do you think you'd ask him?
Mr. Tiger, do you like golf? That's what I would probably do, and then wet my pants and run out with my hands over my eyes. No, I don't know. It's what has he not been asked? What's not super redundant? I mean, what question do you hate being asked? I would ask whether or not he got trademark rights to the Frank head cover brand, because I think that could be iconic for him as an apparel. And I'm wondering if he's going to wear that at Riviera. What's your favorite drink? Yeah. Remember that time you got your wife hit you in the
car accident? Right. Remember the time you drove off a road in a busy Los Angeles street?
Yes.
5 minutes.
Go over every shot he's ever hit.
Right.
Okay. I don't know. I don't need to be in those press rooms because I just don't need to be around people in general. No, but I was thinking, when's Riviera next week?
No, I think it's the first weekend of February. So we got American Express, which murmurs of like a really strong field. I think JT's making his debut. I think Scheffler's going to play American Express. If you want to vamp a little bit, I can look at some of the early commitments, but from what I've heard, much stronger field than we've seen in the past. So up and running with another big week next week in Palm Springs.
That's where I think John Rahm ended his life on PGA Tour, when he said piece of shit putting setup.
Yeah.
I thought he doesn't seem too happy. It's surprising they're going to the Amex, because I thought they don't like those courses much. But the field was good last week. I mean, listen, you don't need to have. Did anyone miss Rahm taking shots last week? No. You have a crafty grinder in Chris Kirk. That's the brand. So in NFL, someone asked me in Discord today, who's your 335-1? Who's your 2,900 tight end who goes 3 catches, 35 yards for a touchdown? I go, crafty grinders, man.
Yeah.
That's a Chris Kirk. He's not flashy. You don't hear about him a lot, but he hits fairways and he makes 8-foot putts and he makes a shit ton of birdies. I thought the tournament was great.
I thought it was wonderful. Good story too. Like anytime you have what I liked about Kapalua this past year is that you had a little bit of everything, right? You had a guy, an underdog story in Chris Kirk that was a bit of an unheralded. Many people besides you didn't expect him to be there, but you also got him and Akshay and Sahith battling against. There was a moment where it looked like Scheffler was going to run away with it. There was a moment where Cantlay looked like he was going to take it. Xander looked like he was going to take it. Morikawa looked like he was going to take it. Spieth looked like he was going to take it. And I think that's what that is like if the PGA Tour is laying out their ideal weekend, that's probably what you want. You want somebody like Chris Kirk challenging with a bunch of guys like Scotty Scheffler and Jordan Spieth and Colin Morikawa. And I hope we continue to get that, right? And the field, we don't have as much of the high-end elite talent in Sony, no Scheffler, no Spieth, no Morikawa, no Hovland, no guys like that. But this is probably the strongest Sony field that we've seen in over a decade. So I'm excited about it.
I think so too. And as you can see, there's a lot of parity in the PGA Tour when it's a 25 to 30 under, even 20 under or more type scoring event. Because as I said last week, I like to play Max Homa in more difficult tracks. The best players in the world, their game doesn't get better, but difficult setups meet their game. That's why majors, you see the best players playing because they can make all these incredible shots on difficult speeds and surfaces in the pressure moments, right? Chris Kirk is still a fantastic golfer, and I think that he could probably compete at a major. But, this week at the Sony, same sort of deal. I mean, what's going to be the winning score? 17, 18? There's only 2 par 5s, but you're going to have – that's why I'm, probably fading the top end prices because those guys aren't Hattons, Fitzpatrick's, all-world golfers aren't necessarily going to win tournament. I play Fitzpatrick at the U.S. Opens. You're going to have some plays that are different. I'm thinking of one today. And someone asked me who I love that's sort of value this week. And you know what? I love you. That's who I love. Kevin Yu, 6,200.
Yeah. Totally in.
Gotcha.
Yeah. There's a couple guys at 60, like
Kevin Yu.
Yeah.
Carl Yuan, 335 and Yuan. There's your crafty grinder. I mean, a guy who can putt. I mean, Hayden Buckley finished second here last year, right?
Hayden Buckley was runner-up, and he also has a 12th in the past as well. So Hayden Buckley's been awesome here.
But anyway, I've used my word count. Talk a little generally about the course this week because you're the man that way.
Okay, so first thing that I want to mention too is I don't know if anyone's been paying attention to the weather, but they've gotten like a ton of rain. Honolulu has gotten a ton of rain over the past couple of days. So I do think there's not supposed to be rain in the forecast on Wednesday, but I would expect some somewhat soggier conditions a little bit, maybe at least on Thursday and Friday. And I think that will be beneficial to scoring, right? So I think that, as you mentioned, like 17 under, I would say minimum. I'd even be comfortable going a little bit higher. But the thing that I have spoken about a lot in the article already, which you can find is up on rumpyoursports.com for a deeper dive on this. I'll give you the abridged version here on the show, but
don't give them too much of a peek behind the curtain.
No. But I will give,
even though for the first 30 minutes of every time
it's always free. It's always free. So I would say short to middle iron play is massively important at Waialae, right? You've got almost 75% of all approach shots coming in that short to middle iron range, 125 to 200. And the highest correlation of course history outside of Augusta National, right? So you want guys that have experience on this golf course before. I went back and looked over the last 2 decades, Waialae. So this is going back to 2003. We have had one first-time winner at the Sony Open. Every single other player has played this golf course once in the past. The only first-time winner over the last 2 decades, 2013, Russell Henley won as a first-timer. So, and that creates a really interesting dichotomy and juxtaposition, because you look at the top of the pricing, Waialae, and there are 4 guys in the 10K range. 3 of them have never played the golf course before. So you have this giant correlation. Hatton, Aberg, Sahith plays it one time and he was terrible. So you have this massive correlation of, hey, course history is really important to success, but the 4 highest priced players on the slate either played here once and were terrible or have never played here at all, which is interesting to me.
That's why I saw Alex Bjork. Ryan Baer believes he's the greatest iron player in the world. I don't know if he still believes that, but, relatively good, can't putt, but, great iron player on the European Tour. He's now, because of the PGA Tour ruling for DPT World Tour players, he is now playing in a PGA Tour event this week. He's never played here. I liked him originally, and I thought, you know what? He's got no course history. He's no Matt Kuchar, another crafty grinder, another Chris Kirk type, doesn't hit it long, but hits fairways. Webb Simpson-y type, 3-wood, good wedge player, will make those 8-foot putts. Can't give away these par 4s. Again, there's only 2 par 5s, so none of these huge, big scoring holes like we saw last week. Matt Kuchar is him. I just don't know if he's playing enough. But, again, like many of these guys, Xander, Harris English, Alex Noren, guys I never can't lay, Matt Kuchar, I will always get it wrong. But yeah, I think that, to me, I want course history guy. Look at Chris Kirk. He's got 3 top 5s here in recent history.
Yeah, I think 3rd last year. He's done just about everything but win here.
He is. If I said, okay, give me a Chris Kirk course, this, not even last week,
Totally.
This is a JJ Spawn course. This is a Matt Kuchar course. I love Eric Cole this week. He's screaming like Siwoo Kim, doesn't hit it a long way, but great short game, makes putts. The thing that concerns me about Siwoo Kim is, and I have an outright on him. And by the way, the Discord hit the Kirk outright at plus 13,000 last week.
I know.
Bing bong.
Beautiful stuff.
The thing about Siwoo Kim is that Kisner said, listen, and this made so much sense to us who followed Siwoo Kim for so long. Form never mattered for Siwoo Kim. 14 missed cuts in a row, wins the Players. That does not happen. Goes 13 under in 14 holes and then gets 2 quads. He said he lives, paraphrasing, he lives for chaos. He gets bored out there, and then he'll say, I just feel like hitting driver off the deck right now for no reason at all. Quad. He said he's a blast to play with because he's so bipolar that way. So I think, listen, if you want to take the Matt Kuchar schematic, the Chris Kirk, and I think Chris Kirk can go back-to-back. I thought Patton Kazire did, but he won in Mayakoba and then in Sony. Maybe he did go back-to-back here. No, he didn't. But there's no reason why Chris Kirk, if he's playing like he did last week, could not ship it twice.
Completely agree. I think that listen, I will say this about Kirk. There's generally a narrative that a player cannot win back-to-back in a row. And then obviously that hopefully affects itself, plays out in ownership. And I have not seen that happen this week. I think that a lot of people are privy to the fact that this is a beautiful golf course for Chris Kirk. And obviously the course history displays that. So I'm seeing Kirk as potentially one of the higher owned players on the slates, which I would be my big concern. And I went through ownership right before we went hot. So if anyone has questions in the chat about the ownership of a player, let me know and I can give you what I got, because I feel pretty good about things as of Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. But right now, if you want me to give you a breakdown of that high nines, because I think you've got this interesting subsect of Harman, Connors, Cole, Henley, Kirk. I have Harman as the highest at 22, Connors at 18.5, Cole at 18, Henley at 17.5, and Kirk at 20. So they're all right there. And it kind of just depends, but that seems to be a very popular build this week. Is that my guess would be that people may take hold of this course history narrative, have some concerns about Ludwig, who, as I mentioned in my article, was bad chalk last week, let a lot of people down. Hatton, Fitzpatrick, the Gala, specifically Hatton and Fitzpatrick, were fine, right? But they've never played this course before. And I think a very popular build that we will see is Harman Connors, Harman Cole, Harman
Connors.
Kirk, Connors Kirk, Cole Kirk. I think people are really going to live and die starting in that 9K range and getting two of those guys jammed in right next to each other.
I will bet my life that Corey Connors is the highest owned in that range.
You think so?
And perhaps the highest overall. It has Ludwig right now as the highest. I'm seeing Ludwig as the highest projected ownership. There's too much burn rate from last week for that to happen. I'm not saying he is Cam Champ 2.0, but I may have said that in the Discord. I think Connors comes out on top. I'm hoping Cole comes down because I'm seeing visions of Eric Cole winning this week. I wanted to pretend that he wasn't good. Last week showed me he's good, and he can putt. Odd man out in that range is going to be Will Zalatoris, rightfully so.
5%, maybe. Yeah.
And if you've seen any recent history, not that he's not an incredible ball striker, if you've seen recent content with him and his putting stroke, it's alarming how mixed up he is right now.
Agreed.
Poston will be high.
Yes.
So where does that take from? I think the low eights, as usual. Jaggers, the Hadwin. No, I can never play Hadwin. I can never play English. Cam Davis was egregious chalk last week.
I think Keegan might be the guy, buddy. Why not? 8%, 8.5%. Why?
I'd rather go back to Brendan Todd, who I think was in contention until he made that bonehead decision to smash his driver.
OB on 14. Yeah.
But I thought the ruling was now that even if you broke it purposefully, you could get a replacement.
Was unaware of that. I know they have equipment and trucks everywhere now.
I think you can. It used to be before. If you break it, you pay for it.
Right.
I could be wrong. USGA rule. We need a USGA rule commenter, and if you can, like weather, we need a weather guy and a USGA rule expert. You can volunteer in the chat, and we accept all.
We're accepting all applications.
Yes, except if you lived in the Mountain Time Zone, you are ineligible.
You're out. You're out. No Mountain Time Zone guys for us. So I think the low eights. So are you out on Rose this week? I think we should just have the Rose conversation because I think that there is maybe a quelled interest in him this week, me as being one of those bandwagon leaders. But Rose almost shot 59 at Kapalua on Sunday and led the field in approach. So I do think that he may have found something on Sunday and is going to be able to propel that into next week based on also really good middle iron player, has had some really good success at this course as well. So he's checking two of those key boxes. But as you mentioned, I actually think there's a lot of opportunity in the low eights where I'm looking at this and saying, okay, if everybody is going to build Harman, Connors, Poston, what's stopping me from going Hatton, Matsuyama, Rose, or Hatton, Matsuyama, Keegan?
Sanity. If you do a Matsuyama Keegan build, Rose. Listen, I almost played Matsuyama in Showdown last week. He's won here.
He won me one of my most profitable weeks in DFS ever was the 2022 Sony Open, where it was the same narrative on Hideki. It was like, the guy's injured. We have no idea what's going on with him. And he was 10% and he ended up winning and won me a lot of money on DraftKings that week. I won the Pat Mayo Open that week. So, here's the thing too, Wiley. Do you know what the optimal was last week? The start was Harman Spieth. Okay. And then your boy Sahith and Sungjae in the eights. So the optimal last week faded imagine waking up on Wednesday morning and saying, I'm going to start my lineup for the Tournament of Champions on January 1st with Brian Harman at the top. I'm going to fade everybody above him, including Scotty Scheffler and Victor Hovland. And I'm going to go Harman, Spieth, Sungjae. Right. And that was optimal this week. Right. So, or last week. So,
no one played the optimal either. The winner had Morikawa in it.
I bet he did. Right. And there are a ton of variations with that.
That was
like I could have seen people go like Morikawa Spieth start makes so much more sense to me on paper, at least. Right. And you definitely could have easily gotten away with that as well. Right. So I do think there's opportunity this week at Matsuyama with Matsuyama at 9%, but I also could be biased because Matsuyama has personally been incredibly kind to me at this tournament in the past.
Me too. Not this tournament, but when he played Firestone with the Bridgestone and he shot the greatest round of one of the greatest rounds I've ever seen in my life. And he won me a lot of money that week 17 years ago. No, I'm not in on Rose. I know you're going to try to sell me on Putnam as well.
Maybe Popular, I think, as our guy Kyle in the Discord mentioned, #1 data golf value play. So those guys always get a way more.
They're steam kings.
Yeah,
I do it for horse racing. They do it for golf. So the Putnam's their #1 value play.
Yeah.
Let me see his ownership. That'll reflect it. Yeah, 16%. Man.
Yep.
Keep at it, data golf. I love the play.
Yep. I'm happy to pass up on Putnam here at 75 for Hoagie at 5. What do you think about Ben Griffin at 74? Like, I think there's some spicy guys in this range personally. I like a little more expensive. I love Adam Svensson. Popular though. Okay.
I cannot give away my absolute play of this week, except I've given it to Discord, and I think it's the winner this week. I'm going to absolutely destroy it. I know it is.
Yeah. Hop in the Discord for that.
You gotta keep code Andy15. This one's real. Real. You get
works at Home Depot too. So you can sign up. You could sign up for Run Pure Sports and then hop over to Home Depot and get your
No, here's what happens. You get 15% off your first payment. We have now a golf only package, which you have good subscribers on now, and you get a hacksaw.
Chainsaw season.
Sign. Andy Lack mailed me a hacksaw. Nick Taylor. Listen, Nick Taylor, I got at again, it's almost over the Discord, post early bets. Try to get about 9 to 11 to 1 return. Pre-tournament.
That's good.
On
Yeah.
about 7 guys. Nick Taylor was plus 11,000, 110 to 1, and he's been bet down to 6. But in Nick Taylor type track, he won at Pebble Beach randomly. He's had success out here. He's an island golfer.
Yeah,
just like
Pebble Beach. Yeah,
right.
Took down Phil that year at Pebble, and I like that he played, because this is a question I've gotten already a bit in the Discord.
Right.
How much of a bump do you give to the guys that played last week at Century? Because I went back and looked at this too.
Yeah.
And 70% over the last 2 decades have played in the Century. So that data is like a Rorschach test. There's enough examples. You can look at it however you want. There's enough examples of players not playing at the Century at all and still winning the Sony Open. But more often than not, it has been a guy that has played at the Century, and there has not been a particularly strong correlation in terms of how you played, right? So, for example, Kevin Na a couple years ago finished almost dead last at the Century and then ended up winning Sony. So, for me personally, I think for me personally, I would rather have them had played at the Century, even if they look terrible. And Nick Taylor falls into this bucket, Hideki falls into this bucket, Henley falls into this bucket, then not play at all. Yeah, then not play at all.
Yeah, that's my concern with some of the guys I like, is that they haven't played in a couple of months. And I don't expect some guys in the mid-7 ranges to win. In DFS, you want a player pool that makes cuts. And if you're able to get one of them in the top 20 that's cheap, top 15, get some birdies, eagles, streaks under 70, then you're going to be probably golden. Especially in a full field like this, where 6 of 6 is, typically rare. I mean, Nelson Adcock has the numbers, but 5 to 8%. If you can 3x the field on 6 of 6, you're going places. So I don't expect necessarily some of these guys to win. But I also had the contrarian narrative in my notes, is that does the sort of grueling walk of the Century for 4 days, well, really 7 days. I mean, they're playing practice rounds, they're playing with pro-ams, they're playing for 7 days. Do they get gassed at the Sony? And we kind of didn't see that. I think we saw it a couple of times by hole, I think it was 55 specifically, that these guys start to maybe feel it a little bit. But no, I mean, probably, let's say, that's why you can have some of these guys that burned you, like a 15% Henley, which I think is going to be high. We used chalky last week, is that maybe shake the rust off, and golfers figure things out. They don't typically, unless they're on my team, typically have 2 back-to-back terrible days or 2 back-to-back terrible weeks. So, but there are some guys like remember Taylor Montgomery last year? There was a streak for Taylor Montgomery that he was just all caliber, birdie machine,
top-fiving every event,
top-fiving everything. Yeah. And then when Wilcox was here in Lexington, he told me, he's like, listen, the guy's game just broke. I mean, he said it was terrible to see it. He broke. He was finishing out of the money. He was missing cuts. But he's had kind of a comeback now, and he's 7-1, right? So Taylor Montgomery, peak Taylor Montgomery, when he's birdieing everything and scoring, he was at difficult tracks. I want to say the Honda, that just comes to mind, but I felt like he was low, mid-8s, and he's 7-1 now at the Sony. Those are guys who haven't seen in a while that I'm willing to take.
Yeah.
If he's 5%, I'll go 7 to 10. Let's 2x the field and still be safe.
Yeah. I feel that way about a couple guys in like Smalley and Woodland, Eckroat, Ben Coles. I like all those guys. Gary, Henley ownership to get to you, Mike Cusano. I have him at 18% right now. So, like I said, I think that range, the high 8s, is play who you want, because I think that there's not a discernible difference right now, although Wiley thinks Connors will end up emerging out of that pack. But between Harman, Connors, Henley, Kirk, pretty even in the 17 to 22% range for all those guys. I will, of course, have this updated on Wednesday morning with more more recent ownership numbers. Taylor Montgomery. Yeah, I've battled against Taylor Montgomery in the past. Absolutely. Because he does it all with his putting, which is what always tends to frustrate me. And I like to play guys like Gary Woodland who don't know how to putt whatsoever. And I'm probably going to follow suit this weekend. Coming off, I think Woodland had like brain surgery or something. He had a big time medical scare. We haven't seen him since the Wyndham Championship in August. But I'm going to play him because he's a really good iron player and he's played well at Sony in the past. So, 2% Gary Woodland at 7.1. Sign me up. The press is, we got to get the Oscar music going.
So they put me on word, like we put each other on word counts on Sunday and they always say I exceed it. So there was one Sunday show for the first 26 minutes. I just sat there like this in complete childish spite. So there you go, J.O.
And Badley, last one in the chat too. No, I don't think so. Not going to play top 10.
The one guy that, last week, if you want to do the shake the rust off type guy, the guy that perhaps is the best putter on tour. I think if he had a better week last week, he would be more higher projection on ownership is Denny McCarthy.
Yeah, I thought you were going there.
Would you like him? I like him.
Yeah, 7%. Yes, I do like him. But I really like the low 8s. Like I am taking my stand in that range and have a less interest in the high 9s. I love Rose. I love Denny. I like Cameron Davis. I love Keegan Bradley. Now, I think the question we have to answer, not to jump around too much here, but we can then finish with at the very bottom in the 6s. But are you playing any of the 10K guys? Like that's a question that we haven't answered that I feel like we need to address.
So I'll be clear in the player pool as to what I'm going to do with them. I will fade entirely at this point, likely Tigala, right?
Me too.
Could change. I will fade entirely Aberg.
Me too. Which scares me because again, I don't think this is a good golf course for Ludwig in terms of accentuating what he does best. But he was another guy that by Sunday, it seemed like something started to click for him. Although I'll say this, of the 10K group, I have Ludwig as the highest owned pretty significantly. Ludwig is just, that's who he is now.
He's got a cult, man.
Yeah, he has his cult. That's who he is. There's no being early on Ludwig anymore. He's going in season-long fantasy drafts. He's going like top 5. This is in many people's mind a top 5 player in the world right now already. So Ludwig is who he is right now.
I'd rather have a guy who hits it pretty straight and can make putts in Tyrrell Hatton. I want to say that I might even be over the field. I don't think
I will be.
What do you have him at 12%, 14?
I have Hatton at 14.5 right now, but I could see that going down.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a lot of Hatton buzz outside of what I've said advocating for him in the Discord. I don't think anyone's betting Tyrrell Hatton this week at 16-1. And if you're asking me to choose between Hatton and Fitzpatrick, I far prefer Hatton because Hatton's a better iron player, right? So
yeah.
I think Hatton and Fitzpatrick will both provide their fair share of quote unquote leverage compared to the ownership that you're going to see on guys just a little bit below them. But I actually really like Hatton this week. And for one and done too, like in terms of a low owned one and done guy, he's not going to make my betting card, but I'm pretty heavy on Hatton this week. That's a stand I feel pretty confident in.
The more I think about it,
Chris bet him, and Chris is a smart dude. So, I mean, Chris reads my articles every week closer than anyone else and makes sure they're legible.
Oh, there's Chris Parrish, editor,
the man
in chief. I think even if you go 15% Hatton, I think that's a safe range. The more I think about it, 9-3 Will Zalatoris, 5 to 8%.
Gosh, but would you rather take a chance on Zalatoris or Hideki?
I think you can do both. 15 lineups with Zalatoris in it.
Sure.
You close your eyes and you say, okay, Zalatoris is -8 on Thursday. I mean, he shot 81 at the Hero his first round. You thought his career's toast, and he came back kind of nicely.
Yeah. And he's 85 to 1 in the betting markets now. So I was talking to Jeff Feinberg this morning about this, but he's kind of getting close to the number where it's like there are way worse ways to spend $20. Like if you're just saying this is a guy that could have 3 majors right now. Yeah. He's like 4 strokes away from 3 majors, Will Zalatoris. So if Zalatoris, if he's getting closer to 100 to 1 in the next 24 hours, I'm probably going to bet it. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, Zalatoris you don't take too much risk here to be over the field on Zalatoris, and no. I don't mind it at this. I certainly will not fade Zalatoris. I will be over the field likely. I know that's contrary to what I started with, but that's what talking through this stuff gets you. So, all right, if you had to, winner's going to win. Yes, I had something interesting to say, but now I forget.
And Toasty too. Do you have any thoughts on Alejandro Toasty? Not this week, but I'm monitoring because I think he's talented. I think he's talented. I'm not going to do it this week, but he's somebody I'm watching closely in 2024. Because
I wish DK pricing would be corollary to the betting market like it is on Monday, and just prices would change. Like I could get Zalatoris for like 7-1 now.
Well, I think that's what Jock Market tried to do, and it didn't work. Right? Like have pricing be based on market. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like an actual stock market, except for golfers. That would be super interesting. But you do kind of get ownership works that way, in a way, right? Because the prices are set, but a golfer's stock can be basically described and seen by their ownership. So there, you still have that element of strategy and game theory to it, which is probably why we love it.
Yeah. I always love when I think I come up with this radical idea and it's already been invented. Yeah, that's called the toaster, Matt. They have
is Rainmaker still going, by the way? Like are people still investing in Rainmakers?
Oh, I got a massive pain through my cranium when you said that. I don't know. We did a show for football where we opened packs of Rainmakers cards, and Tony wouldn't stop. And you could see the audience just dropping and dropping. But he committed by the second, but he committed so hard to the bit. That was a very curious day for us. Did I miss Willie Z analysis?
We literally just finished talking.
We just finished it. His putting stroke is alarming. He finished off Hero okay. He is, when he's at peak, he's the best golfer in this field. He's one of my favorite golfers on tour. I think 5 to 8% Willie Z, low 9s, for me, is worth a gamble. If his market floats up to 85, well, 85 right now, I might as well hit that as we're on the show. I think it's worth an outright.
I'm more likely to use that same mindset that Wiley has on Zalatoris and do that for Hideki. I will be overweight on Hideki this week, and Zalatoris I'm probably more likely to put like $30 on him at 85 to 1 and haven't made a judgment call yet on whether or not I play him on DraftKings. Who the hell
your editor wants to know is Adrian Dumont Duchassa.
So he was a guy who I want to say that he's Dutch, but he had a ton of success last year on the Corn Ferry Tour. Went to college in Illinois, and was a highly touted player coming out of the NCAAs. I think he was one of the top ranked NCAA players a couple years ago, and then played super well on the Corn Ferry Tour last year. I don't know if people remember this, but he was actually getting some of the data nerds like myself were actually saying, hey, this is maybe one of Europe's like 20 best guys. Maybe you should get a look for the Ryder Cup. So again, the same answer that I have with Toasty. I'm monitoring the ADDC situation. I'm not playing him this week. I'm taking a wait and see approach, but I'm gonna monitor that one and see how he looks this week, because I'm watching those guys closely. Ben Coles, ADDC, Toasty. I think you can be early on those guys, and you can hit me up in the Discord if you have any questions about the newcomers, because I am the psycho that does follow that stuff.
If you think like the European tours, super solid European tour players, DP World Tour players, the PGA is just an entirely different animal for these guys, especially when they first start. I mean, how long have we chased Tommy Fleetwood? Has he ever won? Nope. So, Fitzpatrick is a different example, winning the U.S. Open, but, he also won a U.S. Amateur. So, yeah, I'm a wait and see on Adrien Duchassis. And you I like how you said, I want to say he's Dutch. That's something like I would just make up. I want to say he's from Singapore. When you don't know, you make it up.
Just say it. Just say it with total conviction.
Yeah. What's his ball striking stats last year? 6.8.
6.8. You want to fact check me on that?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. It's wrong. Okay. All right, let's cap this off at 3:49 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do a show tomorrow for members only.
We will. Yeah, absolutely. Where's Big T? Is he grinding in the football? He's in the lab.
He has got. He's attending to some stuff at home.
Okay.
One of his kids is kind of sick, so he was going to join. I talked to him at 2:30, but he can't. So.
Huge football weekend. Have you made any bets for the wild card round?
The only thing I looked at were some futures on which teams will end up in the Super Bowl, because
I love those.
Because the market's kind of low on the Rams, and I think the Rams could be a wagon.
I think they could. I mean, no Laporta. So
TBQH, I think the Los Angeles Rams could be an upset. They've been there, they've won it. Veteran quarterback,
Stafford coming back,
best defensive lineman in the league, two incredibly stud receivers, great coach. Guy.
Yeah. My cousin's who I just saw around Christmas time is a beat reporter in Detroit for the Lions.
Really?
There's just so much bad juju there's so much scar tissue. They've won one playoff game in their history. Like people forget this. So I could see the Lions, or I could see the Rams beating the Lions. I think the Dolphins are going to beat the Chiefs. I'm so out on
the Chiefs. Kelsey's retired. He's done. He's done with life.
He's cooked. Yeah.
Chiefs fans. I will never be a Chiefs. I will not stand for the Chiefs on this show or any show at RPS.
And then I like the Browns over the Texans too.
That's offensive.
You're a big Stroud guy. Yeah.
Huge. I think he's one of the. I think he's.
He's good. Yeah. No,
I thought when you said your cousin, I thought you were going to say your cousin's Cooper Kupp or something like that.
No. I do love Cooper Kupp though, and Puka. Okay, what were you going to ask? Favorite?
I was going to say, what's your strongest lean to win at this point? At this point, we talked about our fades, and some interesting players down low. Well, let's just do one interesting player, super bargain bin, min price, low.
Okay.
For me, I It's, I think Kirk could go back to back. I love Siwoo Kim. I think his win last year maybe a bias. He played well last week, but this is just his type of course. Eric Cole's just screaming out of my mind right now. And on the low bargain end bin, when I looked at the field, I was like, Carl Yuan. I was like, what? I wonder what his price is going to be in 6'2", and he had a decent finish here last year. And from what I've seen, stats may not check me out, but I think I feel like he's a good putter. So Yuan, I'll have a couple shares of.
Well, I bet Connors at 33. I posted that in the Discord when I bet it because that number's down to 28. Same with Poston. I bet him at 40. That's down to 33. So another reason to hop in the Discord is not that I'm some crazy market mover. Don't get me wrong. The market moves against me plenty from time to time. Not in the majority of the time. Most of the time it moves with me. But yeah, Poston and Connors are probably my two safest bets in terms of like bets that I like at the top the most. And I feel pretty good about that because I may fade them in DraftKings if the ownership gets too wild, and feel pretty comfortable with my hedge being an outright ticket on those guys. And I bet Justin Rose too, 55-1. And then at the bottom, you talked about Yuan. We mentioned Kevin
335 and Yuan.
Yeah. I don't know if we've given him enough love to. We were talking about Blair in the Discord today, but Blair is a guy that has 2 top 6 finishes at Waialae in the past. Loves himself some golden age architecture. And then Ches Reavie, who I think you've bet as well.
Who was the one before Ches Reavie?
Zach Blair. Zach Blair 62. Ches Reavie.
Did he blow it up here last year? Was Zach Blair when he had a huge round? Was it here?
Travelers is what you're thinking.
Travelers. He almost won it.
Yeah, almost won Travelers is what you're thinking of. And then there is, again, I posted this in the Discord too, but I looked at the biggest underperformers in terms of guys that should be scoring better than they are based on the opportunities they're generating for themselves. And let's just say Ches Reavie on that list, Zach Blair on that list, Twitter sensation Michael Kim on that list. So there are a lot of guys in the 6s that I think, and just to give more credence to that stat that I identified, the number one player in that stat heading into last week, opportunities generated versus their conversion rate. So basically finding the players that generate the most opportunities for themselves, but haven't yet converted on them, aren't scoring at the rate based on the opportunities they're generating. Chris Kirk was number 1 in that heading into the century. So it's a really good indicator of somebody that is probably going to start scoring better than they already are, based on the opportunities they're giving themselves per round. And like I mentioned, Ches Reavie high up there, Zach Blair high up there, Michael Kim high up there. So
I thought
that's what you get.
I mean, Damon too, I thought was a misprice.
He's on the list too. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Damon was a misprice, both in the betting market, DK price. And, if you want to sell, not that you have to dip down too far in the 6s or at all, but Damon you've won a guy who's won before, course fit, tee to green, efficient Chris Kirk type. He's a cut maker. That's it. That's ball game.
Okay. Adios, guys. Hit me up with any questions in the chat about ownership, anything like that. I'll be in there chopping it up all afternoon.
Brian Kirshner, he's in the Discord. There's a bonus.
Yeah, he sure is in the Discord. So if you're in the Discord this afternoon, just give Kirshner a lot of shit.
BK. Yeah. Peace out, boys, and
later,
guys. Oh, I gotta be ready for this.